Bonjour mes amis, hi guys. A micro brand sponsored content isn't quite my usual type of video, you're gonna say. And indeed, when Charlie, who I didn't know before, Charlie Paris reached out to me a couple of weeks ago, I thought it was one of those micro brands. I received many mails from micro brand from China that have a dodgy product like a wooden watch, for example, something I won't be interested in. But I did click. I always click the link to at least give it a shot. And I like the story. I like the spec. I like the look of the watch, and the fact that it was genuinely assembled in France. The offices of Charlie Paris are in Paris, not far from where I used to live, in the 7th district. They are in the 6th district. They actually have an actual retail shop there. You can go see the watches yourself if you are in Paris, and also the beautiful straps. So I decided, let's give it a chance, because I've been meaning to do a video about micro brands, but if you don't try them, you're not really gonna know. So I replied back, and they're very quick. The team, Charlie, is really excellent there. It's just 10 people really in Paris, but the watches are assembled separately in Besançon, which is a sort of a center of watchmaker there in France. Other brands I think you might know use Besançon as well, like Baltic, for example. Besançon is very close to Switzerland, in fact. But anyway, speaking of Baltic, it is the same type of price point. This is actually the higher end of the watches that we're going to review here today, right under the 700 euro price point. But they have more entry level watches. So yeah, 10 people in Paris. The communication was great. The next day they shipped me the watch. It came very quickly to Hong Kong, and I got to wear it already for 2-3 days to really get a feel of what it is. I wasn't expecting to love the watch more than that, because you know me, I'm a bit of a brand snob. You know, I always talk about the big brands from Switzerland or from Seiko, who do everything themselves. And I thought it was really interesting, and I looked at a few videos online about Charlie, people who have used it, people who worked for Charlie. Quite amusingly, the brand was created in 2014 by two French men, and a couple of years later they hired a design director whose name is actually Charlie, but the name Charlie had been chosen before. Why that name? At first it's a bit of a weird name for a watch, but who could resist having the word Charlie on their watch, because of
Charlie don't surf,
and also because it is slang for
Ik voel me ook een beetje stout. Nou, ik zou best wel zin hebben om te seksen, ja.
Okay, maybe I'm pushing it a little bit here. I'm very sorry, Charlie, but I couldn't help doing a bit of humor here.
You borrow my brain for 5 seconds and just be like, dude, can't handle it. Unplug this bastard, yeah.
So yeah, and the symbol is the stork.
there's a jumbo.
So I get the watch. It comes in a tailor-made box with a nice message inside. You get the warranty card, the manual, and the presentation box for the watch. Now, of course, I got this watch for free. There might be a slight defect, might be the reason why they decide to ship it over to me. But anyway, I want to thank them for the trust that they put in myself, in the channel, to review the watch. So the watch arrived, and immediately I could tell, that's unusually good looking. You know, I wasn't expecting that much. Although the price point, almost 700 euros, would indicate that we are a bit on the higher end of this sort of a micro brand. So if you go on the website of Charlie Paris, you will see the whole range of watches. They started with fairly simple watches, started with quartz, I believe. The overall style is rather timeless, sobriety, not too many flourishes. They have a time only, they have a chronograph. Here we have a watch that was started through a Kickstarter campaign, not just to fund their a sportier type of watch, but to fund also an expedition from a young Frenchman, Mathieu Torder, who wanted to walk from the coast of the Antarctic all the way to the South Pole. So the Kickstarter would pay for the watch that was designed for the expedition and kickstart the production of the watch and pay for the expedition, which was a success. So this young man became the youngest man and the first French to do that trip. So it was a record, and he wore the prototype and wears it to this day. And then it became a production watch. There's a smaller version. This one is 40 millimeters. There's a 38 millimeters with a fixed bezel and, if I'm not mistaken, a Seiko quartz, which ticks 4 times a second, which is quite interesting. Gives you a bit of an in-between the quartz and the feel of a mechanical watch. And the look is quite close to the Tudor 36 millimeter look, one of my favorite Tudor watches. And speaking of Tudor and going into the specs and the look of the watch, here we have very much greatest hits. If you were to design yourself the perfect dive watch, because it is a dive watch, although it was spec'd for someone going on a long journey by foot. He explains in a video on YouTube that he would segment his days, which were spent in a full daylight. At that time in the South Pole, the sun wouldn't go down, so it was full daylight, so something a bit different to get used to as well. And he would segment his days in 1 hour segments, working for 55 minutes, taking a break for 5 minutes. So after all, a dive bezel, uni-rotating, does make sense. And since we're talking about it, it has a very loud detent, very precise, hardly any play, and between clicks there's hardly any room. Sometimes you can let's say on a Seiko bezel, for example, you can lodge in between 2 clicks the bezel, but here the click is very distinct between the two positions. Now this one here doesn't align perfectly. Might be the reason why they sent me this watch for free to review. Not a problem. Maybe I'll use my DIY toolkit that you might have seen the video to change this little defect, but there you go. But yeah, very good bezel, very good feel. So a dive bezel, 300 meters of water resistance. This is the spec that they went for. And so I was talking about Tudor, and the case here, it is really a great estate. And if you were to design your own perfect modern diver, I think you would start maybe with the Black Bay case, and you will notice that the case here with the sheer flanks, long lugs that downturn at the end with a bit of a polished bevel, and the polished side, it does look a lot like well, there you go, we have a Tudor Black Bay 58 here. Of course the 58 is very thin, and the regular Black Bay is quite a bit wider. Here we have an in between, but yeah, we can compare, and it's fairly similar in nature, which is not a bad thing. And the polishing is good, maybe not as good as the Tudor, maybe a bit more cloudy, but still quite good. And you do get that bevel and the brushed lugs. We'll come back to the case back afterwards. Next thing you will notice is that thin vintage style bezel, which reminds me immediately of my favorite bezel, which is from the 1957 trilogy Seamaster 300 from Omega. And also it's a very clean bezel. You don't have marks between the 0.10 or 0.15 here. Very clean type of bezel. The 12 o'clock is not loomed, the triangle is not loomed, unfortunately. I think that it's one thing that a lot of people would like if you want to use it in the darkness. The next great stylish point is the crown, this conical crown, which is interrupted in the middle by another black aluminum insert. This is aluminum, of course. There on the bezel you have interesting knurling. It's not the easiest to grip, this way. You kind of have to grab it this way, but it looks great. And if this is your only watch, you don't often have to use it because so far it is quite accurate, plus 5 seconds a day. We'll talk about the movement. Now the next thing is, let me zoom a bit on this. The decoration etched into this this crown is not from a ship. It is actually the same as you find in the back. Yeah, the South Pole with the meridians and the parallels. I think it's a beautiful flourish there. It's one of the best crowns I've ever seen. What a great design there by the designer, whose name is Charlie himself. Well done there, Charlie. I think this combination of the case, bezel, crown is really well chosen. Let's look at the case back. Objective Pole Sud, so South Pole objective, Antarctic expedition. It is self-explanatory. 300 meters of water resistance on this watch. So it is, for all intents and purposes, a diver as well. Inside, you will have an anti-magnetic or anti-magnetic shield. It meets an ISO certification, I think a 764 or something like that. It's good, always good to know. Now, let's talk about that wonderfully designed dial that has space, but not too much. It is very well balanced. I think it's a great choice of indices, which, by the way, I'm going to zoom in again, are really applied and raised. They have a lot of 3D. Look at those indices. Not that many brands actually offer you such raised indices. There is another sign of quality. If you're wondering where your 695 euros are going, you're gonna see why pretty quickly. And I'm sure that someone is gonna say in the comments, yeah, but I can get this and that for cheaper. And I'm gonna say, do you want to wear the cheapest watch? Is that why you're in the hobby? Or do you want to pick a great watch? Try to get the best deal you can, of course, but wear the watch you really want to wear. Not always the cheapest. And I think here they didn't go cheap on the indices. So you have two rectangles at 3 and 9 and round indices. I think it's great that they didn't go for something else at the 12 o'clock because it leaves great room and great harmony by using the same rounded index at 12 as around the dial. So there's more room for the stork logo, the Charlie Paris. It's nice and harmonious. The name of the watch is it's a nice name actually, Concordia. I'll let you look up the different signification, different meanings of the word in Latin and whatnot. And then two red lines. I think we all love two red lines. It's a given that is going to please the nerdy fans of the Rolex Submariner and Sea Dweller. Automatic, 300 meters, 30 atmospheres. And yes, you get a date, and one of the most perfect dates as well. I really like the positioning of this date. Rectangular, really works perfectly in harmony on this very symmetrical dial. The hands are fairly simple, filled with luminova, just like the rest of the indices. And I think my favorite detail on the hands is the second hand. And look how it doesn't, the rectangle doesn't go across the rectangle at 3 and 9 or the date itself. I think it's very well positioned mini rectangle on the second hand. I'll let you look. I think it's well designed. So overall, yeah, I really love the design. It is completed by a single boxed sapphire crystal with air coating. Now the air coating is sort of like a given that everybody wants it, but as you know, neither Rolex nor Tudor use it. And yeah, when you turn the watch towards the light, it becomes bluish, grayish, but I don't feel like it really helps the legibility. So it's nothing to knock on this watch, on Charlie. I think if they didn't put AR, people would say, yeah, but cheaper watches have AR coating. Why don't you put it? I want it. I don't want to watch without it. But look at the watch without it, and I don't see, there's barely any difference in legibility. If anything, it keeps its color, while here you constantly have a watch that goes blue, gray, and then goes back to black, which is a pretty cool look as well. So yeah, sound off in the comments. Let me know if you love that detail or not. For me, I can take it or leave it, but I know that people would complain if it wasn't there. It's one of those things that people got used to and they're not sure why. So overall, I think the presentation, the choice, the design choices are just spot on. And as you wear the watch, as I've worn the watch for a couple of days, non-stop, day and night, because the superluminova is very good. It's not as strong on the hands as they are on indices, maybe just because there's less surface available, while on an Oris, for example, an Oris Diver 65 is a bit the opposite. The hands are brighter than on the indices, but still very legible all night through. And during the day, it's just a very elegant watch, and really a beautiful watch. So it came on this fabric strap, very solid. So you have a sporty option, and it has the pull tabs. So super easy to remove and swap for this very soft, immediately very nice to wear, real leather, genuine leather with the stork sign. Great little minders there. This one is kept in place, and a simple buckle doesn't bother me. I think it works with the inner part of the case that is shown here. So if anything, I can use the strap on many other watches, including, for example, this Tudor Black Bay would work great. And I would never normally mix brownish color and black. And here, I happen to just love it. And I've worn it to the office, worn it outside at night. And I'm starting to really enjoy it and not feel like I want to change watches. So that's the kind of feeling you want to get from a watch, right? So what more is there to say? Really, is this the watch for you? Who is this for? I think it's a great watch to maybe complete a collection. If you just have a dress watch and a chronograph, maybe you can have a diver that you can still wear all the time. This is a great watch for any occasion. It remains elegant, quite timeless like the other Charlie designs. But I think with 200 meters of water resistance, you also have a super sports watch. And because it's easy to swap the straps, really, this can be your only watch. So when you consider all that, all the quality, and by the way, the steel is fairly bright when you compare it to the quite dark steel of the Black Bay 58. The blue version has a lighter steel closer to this, but this lighter shade of metal actually works very well to give this watch a great shine. You might remember I built my own watch, a very affordable kit, $300 kit, with a watch and a full watchmaking kit from the DIY Watch Club. And this is the watch that came with it. And it gave you a bit the idea of what you can do ordering parts and putting them together. But you see here, you don't have the applied indices. Everything is much bigger. Inside you have a Japanese movement and a much cheaper parachute type of strap. It was great fun to build it. But then I can see where the money goes in the way that Charlie has spec'd the watch. And for this watch, they decided to stay with the Swiss. So a long time ago, when they went automatic, they wanted to have ETA movements. But a little brand like Charlie could not speak directly to ETA. They had to go through intermediaries, so the prices would fluctuate, the availability would fluctuate, and in the end it became just too expensive. Celita as well became difficult to get. And while they were looking at options with Miyota and then whatnot, they found STP, which is owned by the Fossil Group and makes a clone of the 2824, which is named the STP, which is Swiss Technology production. I think 1-11, so it's a clone of the 2824. Certain parts, not all perhaps, can be changed against an ETA 2824 parts. Your watchmaker will be able to let you know. Speaking of watchmaker, Charlie has a watchmaker in-house in Paris above their boutique where they have their offices. So if you have any issue, and I've seen a video about it, they're very reactive, and if you're not happy, I'm sure they're even happy to hook you up with a different watch. Really a great team of people, very friendly, very reactive, and a watch that I've been enjoying immensely. And I'm quite proud to be a tiny part of this startup's journey, because I think every dollar they earn, they really earn it by their hard work, trying to design the watches, find a place to manufacture each element, trying to give you a great movement that's not as easy to drop in as a Japanese movement would be. Needs a bit more work to set, but once you have it, you are more content. I think that's the approach that they have using the STP movement in this watch. So there you go. I think when you buy an independent micro brand, you have to consider a bit all these aspects. Just the story behind it. I think it's this one has a good story, a good design. The spec is strong. The straps are great, and that's all I could tell about a Charlie Paris Concordia. So guys, please let me know in the comments if you're interested in the watch, if you would buy one, if you would consider their quartz watches, if you had heard even of the Charlie brand. I had not. It's still a fairly young brand, and I think at first they went for very fairly simple designs. What would I advise them to do for the future? I'm a bit of a watch snob, so I know the things I like, but I also like to be surprised by a brand. And while here you have a greatest hits, maybe it would be interesting to have something that has a lot more character, which is a bit against what the brand stands for. They want something a bit more timeless. But it would be great to build on this excellent watch. There's a new version called Nazare. If you know surfing, Nazare is one of the greatest places to surf. Huge waves, and it's blue. I think there's also a grade version with a dial with a texture. I think a texture dial, maybe also consider a sector dial, which is classic in watchmaking, would be very interesting for Charlie to do, and maybe build up on this sporty watch to offer something a bit less sporty but in the same format. I realize I forgot to mention the dimensions. They are perfect. 40, 47, 12 and a hair, and 20. They've designed it, they spec'd it to perfection. And before I conclude, anything I would change about this watch? I feel the case is slightly sharp, not too much, not something that would prevent me from wearing the watch, but it could rub against your wrist bone here. And if I compare it to a watch much more expensive, I can feel that the case is much softer here. So one little advice I would ask the manufacturer of the case to round, especially this part of the case. I would maybe add a pip of lume at the 12 o'clock in the bezel. And for the rest, I think I'm really happy with pretty much how this watch came out, really. So for the final time, thank you, Team Charlie. This watch, I know quite a few people who need a watch, young people, and I think it would be more fair for me to gift the watch, although now really liking it, and I'm very tempted to just keep it in my collection. I think eventually I will gift the watch to someone who really needs a great one watch to do everything. So I'll let you know how that goes. I'm thinking I have a few very good candidates for this beautiful Charlie Paris Concordia. Check out their website and maybe there's something you like, or stay tuned to the brand. Maybe their next creation will be the one for you. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.
So thank you, Charlie Paris, for sending this watch in and partnering with us on this video. I really do like the Concordia. I think the watch looks great. And the loop plots actually have a very light, not faux patina, but they're kind of custard. That's really cool.